We were told we shouldn't be spending our budget flying to Japan, but we did. we just knew we'd get so much kind of bang for our buck doing it. So we kind of like we spent sort of our pay on our flights and just kind of got as many people as we could over there.
Hey, welcome to Japan Station, Episode 1. I'm your host, Tony Vega. Thank you so much for listening. This thing has been in the works for so long, a lot of months, and a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning, but it's finally here, and I'm really excited to have whoever's listening to this listen to it, because I've been having a lot of fun recording these interviews. But before I get to that, if you're wondering what's Japan Station, I recommend you listen to episode 0. But basically, in a nutshell, Japan Station is a monthly podcast. I'm going to be putting them out on the 1st of every month. I may put one out on the 15th from time to time, but just don't hold me to that. You're going to get one on the 1st for sure. It's put out by japankyo.com, JAPANKYO.com. That's a website I've been running since November 2016. I just write about weird and interesting stuff going on in Japan. So if you want to hear about the latest panty thief news,
the accused man is said to be a lingerie fanatic,
and other stuff, go ahead and check out japankyo.com. While you're there, you can click on podcasts at the top, and that'll take you to the Japan Station show notes and all the episodes, all that good stuff. Anyway, so Japan Station is just kind of my way to talk to some interesting people that have some connection to Japan. And it could be musicians or writers, scholars, pro wrestlers, Japanese people doing stuff abroad, or like today, a couple of filmmakers from Australia, Aaron McCann and Dominic Pearce. They made this movie called Top Knot Detective, and it's, well, if you're familiar with This Is Spinal Tap, you kind of know where I'm going with this, but it's a fake documentary about a fake samurai TV show that became a cult classic in the 90s in Australia. Okay? Stick with me here. So this TV show is just absolutely horrible, but in the best possible way.
It was a rip-off of every samurai movie I've ever seen.
And it follows the story of the top knot detective, quote unquote. He's this kind of samurai detective guy that goes on a quest to avenge his master's death. Along the way, there's a whole lot of horrible acting, ridiculous over-the-top action, some robot ninjas, a penis monster, go-go dancing. There's plenty of go-go dancing, and a time-traveling baseball-playing Power Ranger character, and just a lot of other stuff. It's bad, but in a great way. So there's this other side to the movie as well, though, right? There's a documentary kind of thing. So they go behind the scenes and they follow the story of Takashi Takamoto.
Writer, director, producer, and star, Takashi Takamoto.
The Ed Wood of Japanese samurai TV.
He's the guy that plays the top knot detective. He's this fictional character, and he's this kind of egomaniacal guy, gets drunk off power and fame, and the more popular the show gets, the worse he gets, and everybody starts to hate him, and this whole thing culminates with this kind of murder mystery thing. It's really, really well done, a joy to watch, and funny, but also thought-provoking. So Aaron and Dominic's the guy with the really deep voice, by the way, so you'll be able to tell who he is. But they talk about, well, we end up talking about bad 80s action movies, how this idea came about, how it evolved over the many years that it took them to develop this, filming in Japan without a permit. So just driving around, jumping out, filming. Really, really interesting. Maybe not advisable, but yeah, really interesting. And there's a miniature pony too, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think that about covers everything. And I think I'm just going to stop babbling, and we should get to the show.
The next stop is Japan Station. The doors on the right side will open.
I've got a lot of questions for you guys.
Shoot.
So I really enjoyed the film. First of all, I'm just want to get an idea of where did the idea for the movie come from? Because it's such a specific thing, right? It's this fake documentary about a 90s samurai detective show that was popular in Australia. And you go like, okay, where did this idea come from?
Dom, do you want to start with that?
Sure. It first actually, I was living in Perth with a guy named Stefan, who Aaron made a zombie film called Perish with some years back. And I'd actually just gotten back from a trip to Japan, my second one there, and on the last weekend that we were there, my partner and I spent our last Sunday just kind of drinking beers and watching marathons of daytime Japanese TV, which at that particular time happened to be a marathon of a show called the Abarembo Shogun, which is an incredibly long-running daytime samurai drama kind of thing about like an emperor. And every episode, he kind of walks into a new town and there's generally some sort of problem he's got to solve, but he's traveling around in disguise as this Ronin. And then at the end of every episode, after he's figured out who the bad guy is and solved the crime, his two royal ninjas show up, and the last 5 minutes of each episode is him and those two ninjas just beating the snot out of every bad guy they come across. And we watched several episodes of this back to back. And when I got back to Japan, to Perth, I caught up with Aaron, and we were just kind of talking about it, and that kind of turned into a conversation about our shared love of old samurai films, and Lone Wolf and Cub, and Hanzo the Razor, and all of these things that we loved. And so Aaron was just like, "We should make that into a movie. We should make a Japanese samurai series that's really bad." And we were like, yeah, that sounds great. And it just kind of went from there. And through so many different versions and ideas before we got to what is now Top Knot Detective.
Yeah, it sort of it began as a web series, and then after being a web series, we kind of turned it into a long sort of TV series sort of thing. Then we kind of went back to a web series. Then we got funding to make it as a web series only. And then after that, we kind of joined it all up into a feature film towards the final portions of post-production, really.
Right. So this all kind of, I guess the ball got rolling in the early 2010s?
Well, it in fairness, it probably started when we were both children. But part of where this film came from is that Aaron and I both grew up watching cult international films on a channel called SBS in Australia, which is the special broadcaster service, and they are responsible for international sports, international news, and at the time, they were pretty much the only way in Australia to watch weird foreign films. So Aaron and I both grew up Saturday nights watching Erotic Ghost Story and Killer Condom and crazy Korean action films and weird stuff out of Japan, and Neon Genesis, Evangelion, and just all of this stuff. And that really kind of opened our world up to all this new kind of cinema. So even though the idea to start making Top Knot, I guess, happened in 2013, 14?
Yeah, it was about 2013, 2014. Well, we finished the zombie film around 2012. So our first instance of it was about 2013, and it failed to begin with. We put it up for funding, and we completely missed a deadline. And then it took us another year before, through happenstance, we pretty much got it working again.
Yeah. Yeah, so it took a few years, but yeah, it was a long time in the making. I think we started making the story, and Aaron and I saw a chance to kind of celebrate this golden age of TV that isn't really around anymore. It's kind of been replaced by the internet, and just movies have become a lot easier to get a hold of now. But yeah, it kind of came from there.
Yeah, I mean, the TV show, Ronin City Tante, right?
Yeah, classic. Good TV.
So the TV show itself is like the kind of thing that you would expect to see like in the 90s, kids passing around like on a VHS tape at school. You go, did you check this out? Right?
Yeah.
It was pretty much like we had traded around like Mystery Science Theater and stuff back in the day. So it was kind of a throwback to that.
Yeah.
You know, what was, you know, what the way we used to kind of like play with VHS, and we tried to shoot on VHS, but there was no real working VHS cameras. We had one VHS camera, and that sort of died. So we had to kind of shoot the old-fashioned way and then physically dump to VHS. But we wanted to give it the feel and look that it was one of those old shows.
Yeah. Around the same time that we were starting to put Top Knot together, we were just, you know, kind of realizing this renaissance of appreciation for VHS. You know, films like, you know, Be Kind Rewind, but then also documentaries, like, you know, Rip the Remake, all these things about recycling and reusing old films and tape culture, like swapping tapes, like giving each other things that you have recorded at home, and you don't do that anymore. Like it's in less than 15 years kind of came and went. So yeah, we wanted to kind of tap back into those kind of things you can only find now by luck because someone has an old tape lying around.
Right.
Yeah.
So today, actually, I was looking around online, just looking for stuff that you guys have done, and I saw the proof of concept video that was like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. And well, for one, the story looked like it was different. I was reading a little bit of it, and it seems like the story evolved a lot. But I'm kind of curious about that. But actually, there's one other thing that really stood out to me, and it was a song that you guys used in that video, and it's a song from this 1987 movie called Miami Connection.
Back and forth.
Hell yeah.
Honesty, loyalty.
We watch Dragon. We watch Miami Connection quite a bit.
I think we just love those horrible movies made with so much love that you get on board with them because of your appreciation of how much love has gone into making them.
Yes, as do I. I think anybody that stumbles across Miami Connection probably has an affinity for that kind of film. But I really get that vibe from, you know, again, the TV show within the movie. Like you, how can I put it? You feel, because there's a fine line between something done badly, sincerely, and something done on purpose trying to mimic that just comes out bad and unwatchable.
Yeah.
Right? There's people that try to kind of copy that on purpose, and it just doesn't come out the same. But Ronin Suritante, the TV show within the film, Top Knot Detective, like you really feel like, oh my God, this could have been a thing, right? This could have actually been there.
We wanted to make it a thing, but
we barely had budget to do this.
To make the thing.
We're from Perth, Western Australia, which is far away from pretty much the rest of other Australia, and it's not the first place you'd think of to make a feudal samurai epic.
No, you would not. But you did film in Japan a bit too, right?
We did, and that was we were told we shouldn't be spending our budget flying to Japan, but we did. we just knew we'd get so much kind of bang for our buck doing it, so we kind of like we spent sort of our pay on our flights and just kind of got as many people as we could over there.
What parts? What specific scenes?
Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and we went to Ohara at one point, which was a nice little trip up the coast in the middle of the night.
we just knew that anything that we did, like we could do studio shoots and internal stuff and green screen stuff in Perth, no problems. But what makes a samurai film is the wide shots, the landscapes, the hills, and the architecture that is still all over Japan. And we're just like, really, that's what's going to help bind all of this together and make it feel real. So we knew we had to go there. Like, even if we could only, like, we were literally driving around in a minivan, rocking up, jumping out, sorting out a stunt sequence with some ninjas, filming Seamus who walk past something, and then climbing back in the van and driving somewhere else.
So just completely guerrilla, no permits, nothing.
So much.
Yeah, pretty much.
No permissions, no apologies.
Yeah. Sort of like how a Japanese game show is run.
Yeah. Just do whatever you want.
If something happens, you ask for permission later.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. As far as everyone was concerned, we were there on a vacation / box party.
Yeah.
And the guy getting married just really like dressing like a samurai. Yeah.
How did Toshi feel about that?
Well, it was strange because like Toshi, we went through a weird casting process with Toshi as well because Masa Yamaguchi also auditioned for the same role back when it was a pilot, and we loved Masa's audition.
Masa plays the main character's rival.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He plays Haruto, but he had been in The Wolverine and after our film Ghost in the Shell and a whole bunch of those films, but
actual samurai films.
Samurai films, and he comes from a long line of kind of like sword masters, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But he was sort of like, he was almost too good of an actor. He was like too good a stuntman.
Yeah.
He was too good at everything. And we were like, man, if we were casting the real film, I would totally cast this guy, but we just can't as the main character. He has to be like not used to any of this and shouldn't be a stuntman, shouldn't be anything. So Toshi had only he was an extra in one movie here in Perth. And he was a teacher. He taught Japanese to students here. And it was sort of like being thrust into being a leading role and a leading man. Yeah. Like completely out of happenstance, which was great because we just got him to kind of flow with it. But when he went to Japan, initially it was a little nerve-wracking for him, kind of even getting out on the street and sort of just acting when you're not used to being an actor.
He was incredible. Like we said at the audition that, look, man, we're going to throw you in the weird deep end here. Like if you do this, like I promise it'll be fun, but it's going to be bizarre. And he was on board, and the first trip to Japan, I think the very first day that we put him in the costume and like took him out into the streets and started filming, and everyone stopped and started taking photos of him. Like I think he was a bit wigged out, but he started to really get into the character. Like one could almost say too much by the end of it, but we said, look, just be nothing but bravado. Everything you do is perfect. You're just swagger and just run with it. And he was great. And we couldn't have made it without him. Yeah. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think he pulled it off wonderfully. I mean, you really get that like egomaniacal, like just, getting more and more into himself as the movie goes on, and these like long diatribes of like how amazing he is and all this stuff.
It was good. On that note, the funny story about Masa's character is Haruto came out of Masa's genuine feelings, I think, about the project. When we kind of said he was too good, and we saw the auditions, we were just kind of like, it's almost like we should get him to do Toshi stunts, and then that way the samurai stuff will be really good. But then we were kind of like, oh, that should happen in the story. Takashi should hire this much better looking version of himself to do all the hard stuff. And the whole character just came out of that. And like when we shot the pilot, I think Masa was a little not 100% with playing second fiddle to this dude. But then when it came to shoot the film, he was 100% on board and he was really behind it. And this awesome rivalry came out of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where the kind of conflict comes from, right? It's this qualified guy that deserves to be in the leading role, and yet he's pushed away at every turn, right?
And that character wouldn't have existed without Masa. Because we wanted him so badly. It was like, we have to pretty much write this character for you, sort of based around your strengths. you know, and how kind of like you can be the stunt person, but you should be hating it as you are. So it was great, and yeah, there was just so much kind of like love from all the cast and crew involved, and they really kind of like they helped us so much writing the characters, because both myself and Dom don't speak a word of Japanese, so it was very very hard for us.
Yeah, that I found it so refreshing to watch a movie that, you know, is not afraid to have characters speaking in Japanese and have so many, you know, like little details related to Japanese culture and media and entertainment. And so that really caught my attention. These guys either really did their homework, or I don't know, they've lived in Japan, or I don't know what's going on. But I wanted to know more about that. How do you write a movie in Japanese where you can't speak Japanese?
Not easily.
Yeah. So we wrote all the scripts in English, and then we got each of the actors to sort of translate their parts. But then we had some cast who weren't native English speakers, so in going to Japan, we had to kind of very much rely on our cast, like Toshi or Mayu as well, like just to kind of translate for us on the ground. So they kind of very much helped us kind of like direct people in Japan. And then it was kind of that baptism by fire once we got into the edit suite of just learning, you know, how to edit in another language, which was insane. But before we shot a single frame of the film, we had storyboarded everything and pretty much made an animatic of the whole movie using like other footage from other films, sort of like a very long version of that proof of concept.
Yeah.
Right.
So in that way, we were kind of shooting to boards, but we still allowed ourselves enough kind of wriggle room to improv and come up with new scenes and new scenarios.
Yeah. We were very conscious going into the film, especially I think in today's environment where the idea of cultural appropriation is a much more hot button issue. And we totally understand all the reasonings behind that. And so we wanted to make the story. We know the source material probably better than we do, you know, most other things. And we just, you know, it was big to us that we did it in collaboration with our Japanese cast and crew as much as possible and got all those little details right. And tell the story properly, which is, we couldn't have done without them.
Right.
Obviously, we made fun of everything about Japan at the same time, but we tried to do it respectfully.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all comes from how can I put it? Well, for example, I've mentioned this, I believe, with Aaron, the cat talk show.
Yeah.
Right? Nikotoku, right? So you have this Japanese talk show where these celebrities and the guests are playing with cats as they're talking about these like serious subjects. You know, you have Toshi going on about how amazing he is as there's these kitties playing, you know, with the actors and all that. And the second I saw that, I thought this is exactly what I would like expect to see in Japan. If I saw this in Japan, I would not be surprised at all. Yeah. And apparently that was based on something that you guys actually saw.
Yeah, there's a real news program that comes out of Tokyo. I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but it's just a news program where they talk about the news of the day, and there's just cats roaming around on the stage to kind of calm the audience down.
And it's like a serious political show.
Yeah.
Like we made like a daytime variety talk show.
Right.
But the real thing is like they had local prefecture politicians on talking about local government policy, and they're just patting cats. Petting cats.
Or patting cats.
Oh, no, patting cats. That's what I meant to say.
Patting cats.
Oh, patting cats. But yeah, like, and I think that's what we were trying to say to people as well, as over the top as Japan might feel in our movie, we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything in actual Japan is 20 times as weirder. We just didn't quite have the stuff to pull it off.
Well, I mean, you pulled from the right stuff. I mean, the what is it? The Power Ranger Super Sentai character that comes into the show, right? Like, oh my god,
There's always a crossover.
But there's a lot of Toshi's dialogue as well comes from like actual scandals between Shintaro Katsu during the 90s after he had done Zatoichi, and
really?
There was a big court case with him where I believe his son got done with a whole bunch of cocaine, and then he threatened to do something with his underwear in a courtroom. It was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's like, and it was fascinating just watching all that and kind of like getting into it and going, how can we just take this a little bit further, but not too far, and still have it feel very real.
And the same with Mia's character and the scandals surrounding
the idols,
K-pop stars.
Oh my god,
her story, and that is page for page a thing that has happened dozens of times.
Oh, totally.
To pop celebrities in Japan, and it's like exploring that divide between the super intense, happy pop world of Japan, and then the underside to that.
How controlling, and they can't date, and all this thing, the slightest little thing turns into a huge scandal, and they have to quit or just disappear from the entire entertainment industry. Something.
So truth stranger than fiction.
So back to that proof of concept though. So how did the plot kind of evolve from what was kind of the original idea to what it ended up becoming, like this kind of crazy TV show mixed with like a murder mystery documentary sort of thing?
Yeah, so there was always going to be a murder mystery element to it, but originally the whole show was going to be dubbed in English because we were also big fans of Monkey, and we were like, okay, well, doing a dub might work better for an Australian audience because we were going initially for an Australian audience. So the idea was that there was an Australian dubbing team, which Des Mangan, who did the voices in Hercules Returns, he had sort of unearthed the original footage of Ronin Suri Tentai, and they had basically just dubbed everything themselves, not knowing which order they were in, and made this giant cult hit out of it. But the person who I totally forget the name. What was the name of the character that we had? He was an amalgam of a whole bunch of like Australian rich tycoony billionaires. He sort of bought all these tapes, but then burnt down a building in an insurance scheme, and there was something going on there, and we really liked that. But when we went to the station, they said, "Look, we really like the show within the show, but the whole sort of external thing with dubbing it into English and all the characters being Australian, we don't really like that at all. Like, we think you guys can just do it all in Japanese." And we were like, "Wow, is that something that you guys are up for?" Because we didn't think that there was going to be a market for that. We would have loved to do it that way from the beginning, but they were like, no, we're a multicultural station, so make it all in Japanese and just do that. Amazing. So we're like, great, so let's do that. And then from there, it pretty much turned into, we always knew that we were going to try and bring Toshi to Australia in an Australian jail. But we made a pilot episode because it was a web series as well. There's a 9-minute version of just sort of the opening of the film. Yeah, and that was sort of how it started. And we thought, okay, we'll get 2 seasons out of this. We'll do 2 web series, 6 episodes each. We'll leave on a cliffhanger at the end of the first season, and then by the second season, we'll kind of like reveal everything. But SBS sort of came back and said, look, you'll only get 1 season out of this. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you've only got enough money for like 6 episodes, and we're probably not going to renew after 1. It's just sort of, it's just an experiment for us. So I was like, oh, okay.
At least they were honest.
Oh yeah, they were honest, which was fine.
It was nice.
Yeah, but we then turned those 6 episodes into 8 episodes and went, oh, we'll just do 8 episodes for the same cost, but we'll wrap up the storyline. And then that became financially kind of not viable, so we still wrapped up the storyline, but got it back to 6 episodes. And that's sort of how it was for the longest time until we started sort of trying to make an animatic of the entire web series. Yeah. And then we decided, look, we've got to cut it together as one movie because now we've sort of got about 90 minutes worth of content. How can we make this a web series and a movie at the same time? So we always decided to shoot it as a movie, but we'd break it up, and then we'd show the web series, and then we'd compile a movie version of it back together. But then it just became a movie, and we have never done the web series of it.
We just dropped that. I mean, like, it was everything Aaron was saying, but we just knew we wanted to build this myth of this show and this man, this Tommy Wiseau, and get him to Australia somehow. But also, like, around the time that we were developing this, you know, Black Dynamite was out. Like, there were a lot of shows channeling that kind of, 80s, 90s TV show nostalgia kind of thing. Like purposely...
And Danger 5 as well.
And Danger 5, like, purposely made a bit bad, but still a lot of entertaining things. So we wanted to try and find something a little bit different that we could do with the story, and also around the same time, like, you know,
it was Making a Murderer
and the Jinx, Making the Murderer and the Jinx with these kind of these true crime docos were really popular. And we thought, okay, that's really interesting. What if we make a true crime doco about Takashi and just end it on a real downer note?
And I think it was like we were just watching so much stuff, and we tried to put everything into it, and we threw out lots as well, but it slowly morphed into the film it became.
So is that where the name Seamus Tante originally came from that original draft where it was going to be about a dub? Because, you know, you have this Japanese character. Why is he called Seamus?
Well, Seamus is like, it's a term for a detective, like a Seamus, like an old film noir. You know, so I was like, okay, Seamus, is there like a Japanese name for Seamus? So I just typed like Japanese translation of Seamus, and it became Seamusu. So I was like, right, so he's sort of detective. And then it just kind of like evolves from there in a weird way. And everyone's kind of surname within this is sort of based on other Japanese directors and stuff. So there's a lot of like weird hidden things all the way throughout it. And even like the invention of Stuffu, the company.
How did that come about?
Like, I think we looked up a translation for the word stuff. And we're like, that's the name of the company.
Well, they just make stuff.
They make stuff.
What does the company do? They make stuff.
They make stuff.
Japanese stuff.
And it became out of a mistranslation from it, because it was Stuffu, and then it became we said it wrong at one point. We said Sudafu. And that just stuck. And then that became like how we pronounced it, how we made the company. It became like a Mitsubishi. And we just decided to kind of create this mythos sort of behind it. And lots of logos. We created logos from the 60s and the 80s and 90s, and then modern logos as well. And we tried to design all different types of products. And in every other movie we've done since, we have we've put that company in some way, shape or form. They're part of
the top knot detective cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's our Red Apple cigarettes. Much.
It's just our generic go-to brand. We love just thinking up great Sudafu products, and you know they're the best products.
Yes,
it's the best products.
So I first discovered the movie via the cigarette commercial.
Yes,
it's the crazy commercial where Takashi beats up a kid that's smoking, right?
Yeah, well, smoking's bad.
It's on YouTube, Top Knot Detective channel. You can check it out there. Yeah. But I first stumbled across that, and then before I even looked at the channel or info or anything like that, I saw there was some Japanese Top Noto Detective or something like that. And so I immediately just started looking up in Japanese, and I couldn't find anything. And I was all confused, like, what is this? And then I looked at the channel and I started, I get it. I get what it is now. I figured it out. But when you do your screenings and you've shown it to people, do you get people that just flat out believe it and they want to know like more about this thing that they think is real?
Yeah, all the time. We had a screening in Shanghai, and people were searching while they're watching the movie to try and figure out what was going on. And everywhere, every place we've shown it, someone always asks us a question. And even when it's in a Q&A, I'll kind of get a little bit thrown by it. Like they'll ask, like, so who do you think really did it? Who's behind the crime? And I was like, oh, you mean when we wrote it?
We don't. You don't know how to answer it because you're on the spot and you don't want to ruin it. Like if they're there with it, I don't want to take that away from them, but also I don't want to lie to them. Yeah. But also I'm not really sure who did it. We wrote it vague on purpose. Like we always tried to put the small details in there enough that it was believable, but we figured with how over the top everything is, people, you know, at least kind of by the halfway point, maybe the giant vagina-shaped badger guy, that, you know, they'd be switched on to what's going on, and it blows us away still that people think it's real.
Well, I think you have a nice, like, equilibrium between, like, as it gets crazier, it gets seriouser, and it gets, like, the subject matter just gets heavier and heavier. Meanwhile, you've got the penis monster or something on screen, so you're kind of like, wait, is this real or not? Is this...
I guess the idea of an incredible creative who thought up all this great stuff turning out 20 years later to be a horrible person is a fairly familiar narrative to people these days. I guess if you're not super familiar with Japan, everything you're seeing would kind of make sense. So I guess I can see how people can get into it and believe it, but it's been a great surprise, I guess, about it.
So did you guys kind of plan out the TV show within the film first? How did that planning procedure work?
No, it was sort of very much... they were kind of done in conjunction. We always knew that, like, the last... Because we had done it as a web series, so the last episode in our web series was going to be the last episode that they ever filmed. And the first episode of our web series was going to very much be the pilot episode or the first episode. And then everything in between was sort of based around wherever the documentary narrative was going. We kind of wanted to have a similar sort of narrative or character introductions sort of happening within the show. Because we had sort of said there was about 50-odd-ish episodes. Yeah. So we had made titles for every single one of them. And we kind of planned it all out. You can sort of see them at the end of the film when you're going past Travis Johnson, who's the head of the fan club. When you're going past his collection of VHS, there's like Rise of the Chicken Wizard, Baby Chicken Wizard. There's one just called Baby. A very handsome baby. A very handsome baby. Yeah. There's all these weird like titles that we came up with. But we knew the storylines for each one of those episodes. So if someone asked us, we could be like, oh yeah, that one's about this. Yeah. So like, not that we'll ever likely have a world where we can make them all, but we did think the series through. Like, even so, when people on set were asking us, where's this supposed to go, we could kind of explain it. But most of the time, they just said, I don't understand what's happening, and we just said, trust us, it'll make sense. Yeah.
So, did funding mainly come from SBS? I mean, it's fascinating to me that a movie like this would get made nowadays, right? This is such an amazing, like, passion project that appeals to such a specific group of people, of which I'm one of. But you know, it's not the kind of thing that would get funded by Hollywood or that you would see generally, right?
It's very fair.
The initial funding when we did the pilot episode, that came primarily from SBS. And then our state funding body, Screen West, kind of matched their funds. Yeah. And then I knew we were going to go back and do a full series, so we renegotiated with SBS for more money for the rest of the season, and then got Screen West to put in another portion to kind of match that. And then Screen Australia, which is the national funding body, put in some money as well. And then we've had some gap funding, and then all up, that's sort of how we piecemealed it together. But it's still quite a very, very low budget film for what it was. But Dom did a lot of the editing as well. We multitasked ourselves all the way through. this. We were camera operating, we were recording voices and background stuff. I was one of the ninjas in Japan.
Yeah.
And so was Dom.
We're both in the prison sequence when Takashi's doing his kabuki play. Where, Aaron's the interpretive dancer. I'm on the band with our friend Malcolm, who's actually the composer of the film. He did all the music. So a lot of people on our group put in a lot of love to help get it across the line. We couldn't have done this any other way.
Even the weird trailer at the end for the Italian Jaleo film. Well, that was just done like on a whim. We made a joke about it at one point, like, we'll just do this teaser, and then that was like, we'll never have time. And then we just did it one weekend because I found a miniature pony.
I'm not going to explain that at all. I think that's all the explanation people need to know. You found the miniature pony. There's a thing they need to watch at the end of the movie.
It's the thing they need to watch at the end.
Yes. Miniature pony. That's all you need to know.
It's an even greater film than Top Knot Detective. Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting to wrap up here, but
we talk a lot.
I was looking on IMDb and I saw Guitar Wolf credited.
Yes.
I didn't notice. So what? How did that come about? Where is that? Where should?
Guitar Wolf. That's a funny story. Wild Zero is a favorite movie of Aaron
I've
and
seen
myself.
that. I own it. I've seen it. Yeah,
it's one of those gems that we tell people most people haven't seen, and it's just
Japanese rock band, zombies,
aliens,
crazy
drug
movie.
dealers. It's the best. It's a horribly made movie, but it's fantastic at the same time. Like, it's brilliant. Yes. Very forward attitudes to transitioning people. Like, it's great. My partner is a go-go dancer. My wife, she's a go-go dancer, and she had been dancing in Japan, touring while we were making stuff, and she ended up go-going with Guitar Wolf one night.
Wow.
And in early versions of the script, Aaron and I kind of jokingly, we said, what would be great at the end, at like the last episode, which is supposed to be the season cliffhanger, is if Guitar Wolf rocked up. That's the ultimate Japanese nod. So she's in Japan, she go-goes with him and actually gets his email. And I'm like, holy hell. So we reached out to him and we didn't hear anything back. And this was before we started shooting. But we were like, there's a chance this could work. So let's just shoot an alternate ending with a body double to be Guitar Wolf and write him into the film. And then if we can get him, we'll do it. Yeah. So we shot the scenes like with a body double and just hoped for the best. And then just before our second trip to Japan, we got an email from his manager in New York saying he's keen. So we met him at the side of a highway in Tokyo, and we threw up a green screen, and he was fantastic. He was incredible. He was so lovely, and he just instantly switched into Guitar Wolf mode, and he made us shoot some extra shots of his bike because he loves his bike, and that's his real bike in the film. It was a dream come true. It was nuts. And he's one of those cameos that 1 in 10 people understand, but when they see him there, it's like, yes! Yeah.
It's like the other cameo is Shonen Knife as well.
Yeah.
Like they were touring in Perth, and we just kind of like rocked up and went, hey, do you mind just doing this little promo thing for our movie? And they were like, sure, no worries.
Yeah.
And we just put them in it because like we love them so much.
It's like, is that Shonen Knife in your movie? I'm like, yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. That's great. So has overall the reception when you show it at festivals and whatnot been positive? Have people been really? Yeah.
It's been incredible.
That's great.
I've been blown away how much people have loved it. Definitely for a niche audience, but an audience that really loves this kind of stuff.
And that's sort of who we made it for as well.
Yeah.
Like we made it for us in this sort of love letter to Japan. We made it for people who love the films that we love, and we're just really kind of like, it's so humbled and it's such an honor to have these people kind of like come up to us and talk to us at any film festival as well. Like we're really open to chatting with anyone about this film, and especially yourself, like even reaching out to us. Like we're happy to
thank
chat
you.
about it.
Yeah. Any chance to talk about samurai films, pretty much.
Or Wild Zero or Miami Connection.
Yeah. Just movies in general, really.
Yeah, the kind of stuff that not everybody knows, but the people that know about it really love it, right?
Yes.
And hopefully know about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think those details, that attention to detail, even talking to you guys right now, that passion really comes across. I think I think I get the vibe that you guys really enjoy working with each other, and that just makes me happy. So.
Yeah. We have unique senses of humor.
Yes.
It's very helpful when you find someone else who has a similarly unique sense of humor.
Absolutely. It doesn't just go like, what are you talking about? I don't get why there should be a penis monster, right?
Yeah.
So, how is it? How's distribution? Can people in Australia get it, but it's still not available in other countries? How is that working?
Currently, I believe we're getting a release later on this year, and hopefully we'll be able to bring out more news about that soon. We've still been kind of like all year. It's been kind of up and down with distribution, and hopefully we'll have a release in maybe the UK later on in the year as well. But beyond that, there's no US distribution yet.
Okay.
And there's no Japanese distribution yet, so we're still very much open for anyone from either place to reach out and be like, hey, we'd love to show your movie.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, love to hear from you. But if you are listening and you love the film, please tell your friends. Rave about it online. Let people know it's out there. Share the cigarette commercial. Tell people it's real. Just get them talking about Top Knot Detective, because we want more people to be able to see the story.
So, can people in Australia see it though?
Not yet.
No, they were able to for a short time.
It was
through SBS. But since we did the festival run, we've pretty much been in Festival Town now for almost a year. So, or a little bit over a year actually. And so now it's sort of like coming back full circle, and people in Australia will be able to hopefully see it and buy it and rent it and do all that very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I hope so, especially here in the U.S. Since you guys don't quite have it that locked down yet, but I hope somebody's listening and somebody can get on that, because like I said, I really enjoyed it. I think there's a big crowd of people that would enjoy it too. It's a super fun movie, and I think people really enjoy it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Yeah. Is that kind of the main focus, you guys right now, working on distribution and getting more people to know about it? Do you also have other projects coming down the line?
Yeah.
We've just finished shooting on another project, and we're currently in post on that, and we have written another project that's doing some of the rounds as well. They're all in different genres. The project that we just did is more kind of a kids film. Okay. And then the one which we wrote is more of a crazy sci-fi rom-com. And then we're trying to write another martial arts movie that Masa could be in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then we're trying to write another weird sort of, horror comedy thing. So we're just trying to do a lot of writing and finish up the post-production on the film, which we currently just shot. So which hopefully will be out next year, and then I'll be able to talk about it. But we're we're under these damn NDA clauses.
These embargoes. These embargoes.
Otherwise, that talks so much about
so much. But yeah, like we're cooking up some stuff that if you're a fan of Top Knot, I think you'll like too. So you just have to stay tuned to hear from us. And
so the best place to stay tuned would be the Facebook and the Twitter, then?
Definitely.
Okay.
I'd say so.
So Facebook, Twitter, can you remind what?
Facebook is just / Top Knot Detective, and Twitter is / TK Detective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay tuned to there, where Aaron runs everything, because he's much better at social media than I am.
And on the Instagram as well.
Oh yeah, man, you need that Insta feed. You ain't shit without an Insta feed.
It's been very easy communicating with Aaron. That's all. He's been super helpful.
Leave the internet.
Well, thank you guys.
No worries.
Thank you so much for making time. I think it's been some very fascinating learning about kind of the behind the scenes of this movie.
Which I hope we'll get out someday. We did shoot a behind the scenes of this film.
We do.
Okay.
We do. We get Get us that distro deal, everyone out there. And we'll show you some of the incredibly stupid things we did behind the camera.
We'll get that Criterion edition.
Yeah. Some director's commentary.
Spike Jones music video. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Dominic. That's episode 1. I can't thank you guys enough. I couldn't have asked for better guests for my first episode. Everybody, I think we learned an important lesson today. When life presents you with a miniature pony, don't let it slip through your fingers, all right? You use that miniature pony for something good. You make something out of, all right? Seize the day, seize that pony, all right? And yeah, check out the movie. As for Japan Station, you can stay connected on Facebook at JapanKyo or on Twitter at JapanKyo News. If you want to support the show and JapanKyo.com, one thing you can do is go to JapanKyo.com. Next time you're going to shop for some juggling balls, some underwear, socks, or I don't know, a banana hammock. I don't know what you spend your money on, okay? But when you're going to spend some cash, you click on that Amazon affiliate link, you buy your things, and we get a tiny percentage of that. Helps us pay for hosting and all that kind of stuff, while you get your stuff at no extra cost. So keep us in mind. Also, leave a review on iTunes. iTunes should be up by the time you're listening to this, and if not, it should be out really soon. Tell your friends and family. Just call them up at midnight and say, hey, did you hear about this new podcast called Japan Station? Don't call them at midnight. They're going to hate you if you do. But yeah, keep us in mind. Share it. Tell people about it if you enjoyed it. All right. Episode 2 is coming. Should be out pretty much. Almost certainly it's out by the time you're listening to this. But it's with Anne Latine. She's originally from Alaska, half Japanese, half American, and went to Japan to become a comedian. And oh my goodness, does she share some really good details. But yeah, episode 2, so don't miss that. All right, so that's a wrap. Thank you for listening. I'm supposed to say something interesting, piffy, insightful, and I can't think of anything, so I'm just going to say, go find your miniature pony.
Just do it!